Okay, now last session you saw zeros and you saw zeros of a linear polynomial, and today we shall see zeros of a quadratic polynomial. Let us consider the quadratic polynomial p of x is equal to x square minus 3x minus 4, right? This is having degree 2, so it is a quadratic polynomial. Now I want to find zeros of the polynomial. Okay, what do you do to find zeros? You must be remembering from last session. You say 0 means actually that value of x for which answer of the polynomial becomes equal to 0. And if you wish to find out the value, that is for what it is going to become 0, that is you want to find 0 of this polynomial, then what do? We have to study 3 slots over here for a quadratic polynomial. The first thing which we want to know is how to find the 0 of a polynomial. So like last time, 0 kaise ढूंढने का? You say suppose p of x is equal to 0. That means x square minus 3x minus 4 is equal to 0. It's a 3 term, so you split the middle term. And how to split the middle term? The last term is minus 4. So factors of minus 4, you wrote it as minus 4 and plus 1. If you add minus 4 and plus 1, you get minus 3. And if you multiply minus 4 and 1, you get minus 4. So by splitting of the minus term, which you all know how to factorize, right? So you factorized and you got x minus 4 into x plus 1 is equal to 0. That means x is equal to, x minus 4 is 0, so x is equal to plus 4, and x plus 1 is equal to 0. So plus 1 goes to the other side and x is equal to minus 1. So you got two values of x, that is 4 and minus 1. So we have got two zeros over here. The quadratic equation, what is the degree of the polynomial there? Degree is 2. So maximum you can get 2 zeros. And here when we resolve or solve it, we got 2 zeros, x is equal to 4 and x is equal to minus 4. Now we want to find out relation between the zeros and the coefficients of the polynomial. Suppose a general polynomial which I want to consider, any quadratic polynomial, that is ax square plus bx plus c, right? This is a general quadratic polynomial. Now over here, what was 0 of the polynomial? 4 and minus 1. So 0 of the polynomial, you suppose you call it as the zeros of the polynomial, you call it by symbol alpha and beta. Right. So alpha, yani one 0 is 4 and the other 0 is minus 1. Now add of both the zeros, sum of the two zeros. So sum of the two zeros when you took, that is 4 and plus minus 1. So that is 4 minus 1, which is equal to 3. Then you take multiplication of both the zeros of the polynomial, that is 4 multiplied by minus 1, and answer is minus 4. Now the answer for sum of the zeros is 3. Answer for product of the zeros is minus 4. Now you want to take a relation between coefficients a, b, c and the zeros of the polynomial. So take a value minus of b upon a. According to you, coefficient of x is called as b. So what is b for you? Minus 3. So minus of minus 3, that is plus 3. And a का मतलब है coefficient of x square. So coefficient of x square is 1. So that is 1. Minus of minus plus 3 upon 1, and that is equal to 3. Now this number 3, you connect it over here. What did you get? Sum of the roots was 3 and minus b upon a is also equal to 3. Same way you go to c upon a. C matlab constant term, which is minus 4. So minus 4 upon a, that is 1. Minus 4 upon 1, that is minus 4. And now again this answer minus 4, you connect it over here. So again you got product of the roots, and that is equal to the c upon a ratio. That means you come to a conclusion, sum of the roots alpha, sum of the zeros alpha plus beta is minus b upon a, and product of the zeros, that is alpha multiplied by beta, is equal to c upon a. And finally, now you take the graph of p of x. In this p of x, you put different values of x and values for p of x. P of x का value will be taken as y coordinate. So p of x is y coordinate and x whatever coordinate you get, you plot a graph for that, and the graph which you plot comes out to be a curve like this. Such a curve is called as a parabolic curve. So the graph of a quadratic equation is always a parabola. Now this parabola what you have, now let us see where it intersects our x-axis. First of all, it intersects x-axis in two places. जितनी बार intersect करेंगे उतने zeros मिलेंगे. तो here it is intersecting 2 times. पिछली बार आपने देखा था the line was intersecting 1 time, so you got 1 0. Now the graph is intersecting at 2 different places. So when it intersects at 2 different places, you have 2 zeros, and where it intersects, that x coordinate where it intersects is called as 0 of the polynomial. So it is intersecting the x-axis as -1 and it is intersecting it as x is equal to 4. So x is equal to -1 and x is equal to 4 are the 2 zeros of the polynomial. That means next time onwards, if you are given an equation, it could be linear, it could be quadratic, any type of equation. For that equation, you have to remember that things, 3 different categories of information you need to remember. So that is first one, p of x is equal to 0 बोल के जो solve करके x का value मिलेगा, that is called as 0 of the polynomial. Then you add the 2 zeros and multiply the 2 zeros, and when you multiply and add the 2 zeros, you relate it with the coefficient a, b and c and you get the 2 different relations as sum of the roots, sum of the zeros, that is alpha plus beta is minus b upon a, and product of the roots is c upon a. B is the coefficient of x, a is the coefficient of x square, c is the constant term, a is the coefficient of x square. And now lastly, hamesha we'll go to the graph of the equation. Quadratic equation ka degree is 2, so maximum you can have 2 zeros over here. The graph is intersecting x-axis in 2 different points, so it has 2 zeros. It intersects at x is equal to -1 and it intersects at x is equal to 4. So x is equal to -1 and x is equal to 4 are the 2 zeros of the expression. Further we go to more detail for zeros of the quadratic equation. Now you saw relation between coordinates and the number of zeros and sum of zeros, product of zeros. You saw the graph of a quadratic equation. Now here in the board, on the board you see 6 different diagrams. Okay, and I explained it twice that how many times your graph intersects, yani ki meets the x-axis, that many number of zeros it can have. These are all 6 quadratic equations. Now see the graph here, it meets x-axis at 2 points and it is downward opening. Here it meets x-axis at 2 points, it is upward opening. Here it touches x-axis only 1 time and here it also touches 1 time. One is upward, one is downward opening. Here the graph does not touch the x-axis at all. Here also the graph does not touch the x-axis at all and it is downward opening. That means the graph could be upward opening or it could be a downward opening parabola. Now, how many zeros it has over here? Let us count the number of zeros. It intersects 2 times, so 2 zeros. Number of zeros intersects 2 times, so n is equal to 2. Number of zeros, it intersects 1 time, so it is 1 0. Number of zeros, it intersects 1 time, so it is 1 0. Here, number of zeros, no zero, 0 number of zeros it is having. It does not touch the x-axis. Here, it does not touch the x-axis, so the number of zeros is 0. Now here the number of zeros, how I told to find out how many times it touches, it meets the x-axis, that many number of zeros it will have. So here 2 times, here 2 times, so number of zeros are 2. Number of zeros, it touches only 1 time, so number of zeros is 1. It touches 0 times, it does not touch only, therefore number of zeros are 0. But you see some common thing over here, that is sometimes it is upward opening and sometimes it is downward opening. So what is the factor which is going to decide whether the parabola is going to be an upward opening parabola or a downward opening parabola? That means if I have a parabola, say it is in this manner, right? So whatsoever parabola it may be, it is upward opening, it is downward opening, it could be, say for example, a parabola in this form, it could be a parabola in this form. Now how do you decide whether it is going to open upward or it is going to open downward? Now this depends upon, say this is your expression, p of x is equal to ax square plus bx plus c. This is the general quadratic form. Here, if your a is positive, yani ki coefficient of x is a positive term, then it will open upwards. Then it will open upwards. And in the second case, if a is less than 0, yani ki x square ka coefficient agar negative term hoga, so it will open downward. So then we will say that it opens downwards. It opens downwards, right? That means, now I will give you some examples. Suppose p of x is equal to 3x square plus 5x minus 6. If this is the parabola, then what is the value of a? Your a is equal to 3 and it is positive. It is a positive term and therefore parabola, the parabola is upward opening, right? But suppose if you have p of x is equal to, say I may have it in this manner, 6 minus 4x square minus say some 4x minus 8x square. So what is the coefficient of x square term? So coefficient of x square term is minus 8, which is less than 0, and therefore you will say the parabola is a downward opening parabola. Okay, now you saw zeros of linear, you saw zeros of quadratic, and now today we are going to see zeros of a cubic polynomial. Now cubic polynomial degree is 3. So maximum how many zeros it can have? It can have 3 zeros, it can have 2 zeros, it can have 1 zero, or it may not have a zero at all. Now let us see, p of x is equal to x cube. If you wish to find out 0, what do? You say p of x is equal to 0. Yani x cube is equal to 0. If x cube is equal to 0, that means x is equal to 0. How many answers did you get over here? Just one, single answer. If we draw the graph of a cubic polynomial, the graph is always going to be in this pattern, right? Some curve like this way. So over here, my graph intersects x-axis in exactly one point, and that point is origin, yani x is equal to 0. See the 0 here, x is equal to 0. Our graph is intersecting x-axis at x is equal to 0. That means over here, even though the degree is 3, but it is having how many 0? It is having only 1 0. Now we go to another cubic polynomial, x cube minus x square. आई वॉन्ट जीरोज ऑफ द पॉलिनोमियल, मुझे सॉल्व करना पड़ेगा। सॉल्व करने के लिए क्या कहा था मैंने कि p ऑफ x को 0 कह देने का। सो x क्यूब माइनस एक्स स्क्वायर इज इक्वल टू 0। एक्स स्क्वायर इज अ कॉमन टर्म, कॉमन बाहर निकाला तो ब्रैकेट में 3x थे, 2 बाहर है तो 1 अंदर आएगा। दोनों x स्क्वायर बाहर है तो दैट इज ओनली 1 विल रिमेन। सो x माइनस 1, that means x square is equal to 0 or x is equal to 0 and x minus 1 is 0 तो x is equal to 1। तो x की मुझे यहाँ 2 वैल्यूज मिली। एक्चुअली x का वैल्यूज 2 बार 0 0 हो रहा है and once it is coming as x is equal to 1, I am getting 2 distinct zeros over here। 2 अलग अलग zeros मुझे मिल रहा है। क्वाड्रेटिक नहीं है, ये कैसा इक्वेशन है, क्यूबिक है। क्यूबिक है फिर भी मुझे 2 ही इक्वेशन के 2 ही जीरोस मिल रहे हैं। अगर मैं ग्राफ ड्रॉ करती हूँ तो ग्राफ में लुक समथिंग लाइक दैट। आई हैव x इज इक्वल टू 0, आई हैव x इज इक्वल टू 1। तो ग्राफ टचेस x एक्सिस एट, दिस इज योर x एक्सिस एंड दिस इज योर y एक्सिस। इट टचेस x एक्सिस एट 0 एंड इट टचेस x एक्सिस एट इक्वल टू 1। हाउ मेनी टाइम्स माय ग्राफ इज टचिंग द x एक्सिस? 2 बार। And at which point it is touching? At 0 and 1. And what are 0 and 1? They are zeros of the polynomial. So the graph intersects x-axis at x is equal to 0. It has 2 zeros, x is equal to 0, x is equal to 1. And how many number of zeros it is having? 2. कैसा equation है? Cubic. Cubic equation, number of zeros कितने थे? 1. Cubic equation, number of zeros कितने हैं? 2. And now we go to a next cubic equation, that is x cube minus 4x। चलो, I want 0 of it, तो 0 निकालना है तो क्या करना पड़ेगा, equal to 0 कहना पड़ेगा। तो x cube minus 4x is equal to 0। Now कॉमन क्या है दोनों में, x कॉमन है तो कॉमन नंबर बाहर निकाला। 3x थे, 1 बाहर है तो 2 अंदर रहेंगे तो x स्क्वायर एंड माइनस यहाँ से 4x में से x बाहर गया तो -4 बचेगा। x minus 4, x square minus 4, it is of the type a square minus b square, तो a plus b, a minus b, that is x square minus 2 square, तो x plus 2 and x minus 2, तो x की 3 वैल्यू मिली, x is equal to 0, x plus 2 is 0, यानी कि x is equal to minus 2, x minus 2 is equal to 0, यानी कि x is equal to 2। कितने zeros मिले मुझे? 3, 0, minus 2 and plus 2। It is a cubic equation and maximum I got 3 zeros। इसका ग्राफ कैसे दिखेगा? Something like this। It will pass through -2, -1, 0, +1 and +2। So it is passing through all these terms over here, that is -2, -1, 0, 1 and 2। Now see, it is passing through -2, 0 and 2। 3 बार x एक्सिस को वो कट करता है। अपना ग्राफ x एक्सिस को, दिस इज योर x एक्सिस एंड योर y एक्सिस, it touches the x axis at 3 distinct points। So number of zeros is how much? It is having 3 zeros। And how many zeros are there? -2, +2 and 0। So that means कोई भी इक्वेशन उसकी डिग्री को पहले देखना है। अगर क्वाड्रेटिक इक्वेशन है, डिग्री 2 है तो मैक्सिमम 2, यानी कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा 2 जीरो हो सकते हैं, 1 भी हो सकता है, 0 भी हो सकता है। क्यूबिक इक्वेशन उसकी डिग्री क्या है? 3, तो मैक्सिमम कितने जीरोस होंगे? 3। फिर 2 भी हो सकते हैं, 1 भी हो सकता है, 0 भी हो सकता है। एनीथिंग कैन हैपन, राइट? सो दिस इज रिलेशन टू नंबर ऑफ जीरोस। दैट मीन्स टिल नाउ वी सॉ what are zeros, relation between zeros and things which we may later on go in deep again in future, but right now till here अभी तक जो फर्स्ट एक्सरसाइज अब हमको देखनी है वो किससे रिलेशन रखती है? आपका ग्राफ एक्स एक्सिस को कितनी बार टच करता है, that many zeros it is going to have। So let us see the next exercise। Okay, so you saw the different type of zeros, the different type of polynomials, and now you are going to deal with exercise 2.1। So what does the exercise ask you to do is count the number of zeros। Okay, and how did I tell you to count the number of zeros? आपका ग्राफ x axis को जितनी बार टच करेगा, that many number of zeros you are going to have। this graph, yani this is your line, right? So this straight line touches x-axis how many times? Touch hi nahi karta. That means number of zeros here is going to be 0. Now you come to the second graph. Again, question is, how many zeros does it have? Okay, आपका ग्राफ x axis को कितनी बार टच करता है? Just exactly 1 times at this point. So, number of zeros n is equal to 1. The third diagram, how many times does it touch the x-axis? 1, 2 and 3. That means here number of zeros n is equal to 3. Then you come to the fourth diagram. How many times your graph touches the x-axis? 1 and 2. So n is equal to 2. N is equal to 2. Here, how many times it intersects? 1, 2, 3 and 4. So therefore, here n is equal to 4. Now here, how many times? 1, 2 and 3. It cuts x-axis at 3 places. So n is equals to 3. So here we are over with your exercise 2.1, and next time we may further meet with a different topic. Thank you, children.